You can listen to this calmly. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to focus on. Allow your breathing to slow. Allow the noise of the day to fade. Tonight, we are not rushing. Tonight, we are simply listening. We are traveling back in time, not quickly, not sharply, but gently to a land of wide deserts, open skies, and quiet nights. This is Arabia before Islam, a world very different from today, a world without guidance, yet not completely without truth. As you listen, there is no need to memorize names or events. Let the words flow naturally like a calm stream. History does not always need to be studied. Sometimes it only needs to be felt. Before Islam, life moved slowly. People lived close to nature. The sun dictated their days, the stars guided their nights, silence was common, and in that silence people often reflected, even if they did not fully understand what they were searching for. Arabia was not a land of cities and empires, it was a land of tribes, small groups of people bound by blood, loyalty, and survival. Each tribe lived for itself, protected itself, defended itself. There was no central rule, no single authority. Your safety depended on who you belonged to. Your tribe was your shield. Without it, life was fragile. The land itself was harsh, long stretches of sand, mountains carved by time, scarce water, travel was difficult, danger was always near. Yet despite this harshness, the people of Arabia were strong, resilient, patient. The desert taught them endurance, it taught them how to survive with little. It taught them to value generosity because hospitality could mean life or death. When a guest arrived, they were fed, protected, honored. These were not written laws. They were traditions passed through generations. But alongside these noble traits, there was confusion of belief, confusion of purpose. People believed in Allah, but they did not worship Him alone. They believed that idols could bring them closer to Him, that carved stones could protect them, that statues could answer their prayers, and so worship slowly lost its meaning. Religion became habit, tradition, something inherited, not something understood. As you rest, imagine the quiet of the desert night, a fire burning softly, the wind moving across the sand, the stars above countless and still. In moments like these, some hearts felt there was more to life, more than idols, more than tribal pride, more than survival, but they did not yet know the way. And so the world waited, not loudly, not impatiently, but quietly, waiting for guidance, waiting for clarity, waiting for a light that would bring balance to strength and mercy, to power and compassion. Arabia was a land shaped by nature long before it was shaped by people. Vast deserts stretched beyond what the eye could see. Sand dunes rose and fell like waves frozen in time. The land was open, exposed, and unforgiving. There were no long rivers flowing through the desert, no wide fields of green. Water was rare, and because water was rare, life was precious. The heat during the day was intense. The sun stood high, powerful, and constant. It ruled the rhythm of life. People woke early. They rested when the heat became too strong, and they moved again as the sun softened. At night, the desert changed, the air became cool, the sky became wide and clear, stars filled the darkness, guiding travelers, comforting those who lived beneath them. For many, the stars were the only map they had. Arabia was not one single type of land. It was divided into regions. Some areas were dry and rocky, others were endless sand. A few places like oases were gifts of mercy. Where water appeared, life gathered. Small settlements formed around wells, animals rested there, caravans passed through. These places became meeting points, centers of trade, moments of relief in a harsh land. Because the land was difficult, people learned to travel. Trade routes crossed Arabia. Caravans carried goods from one region to another. Spices, leather, cloth, food. Travel was dangerous but necessary. And through travel, Arabia became connected to the wider world. Ideas passed quietly, beliefs mixed, stories were shared. Even before Islam, Arabia was listening. The desert created independence. People could not rely on governments or systems. They relied on themselves, on family, on tribe. This created strength, but it also created isolation. Each group lived by its own rules. Each tribe defended its honor fiercely. Because survival was difficult, people valued loyalty deeply. Betrayal could mean death. Protection meant everything. The land also shaped patience. In the desert, nothing happens quickly. Travel takes time, growth takes time. This patience would later become important because when guidance came, it would spread steadily, firmly, without haste. The harshness of Arabia also revealed human weakness. People understood that they were not in control. Storms could destroy, drought could kill. When water disappeared, no idol could create it. Deep down, many hearts knew this truth, even if their actions did not reflect it. The environment stripped away illusions. In the desert, power is temporary, wealth is fragile, life is uncertain. This awareness prepared hearts, even unknowingly, for a message that would speak about humility, dependence on Allah, and the reality of the hereafter. Imagine traveling through this land slowly. the sound of footsteps on sand, the quiet breathing of camels, the wind moving gently. There is space to think, space to reflect. Arabia was not crowded with noise, it was filled with silence. And in silence, the heart becomes more aware. This land did not produce kings or palaces, it produced endurance, simplicity, strength, and from this land Allah would choose a messenger, not from luxury, not from comfort, but from a place that taught patience, trust, and reliance on him alone. Life in Arabia revolved around the tribe. The tribe was not just family, it was identity, it was safety, it was survival. Without a tribe, a person had no protection. From birth, a person belonged to a group. Their name, their honor, their future, all were tied to their tribe. The tribe decided who you were, who would stand for you, and who would fight for you. Loyalty was absolute. To stand against your tribe was to stand alone. There were leaders within tribes, elders, chiefs. They were not kings. They ruled through respect, experience, and strength. Decisions were made through discussion, through influence, through tradition. There were no written laws. Custom was law. Honor was central to tribal life. If honor was harmed, it had to be restored. An insult could become a feud. A single incident could lead to generations of conflict. Revenge was expected. Forgiveness was rare. Blood was answered with blood. And so cycles of violence continued. Justice depended on strength. If your tribe was powerful, you were protected. If your tribe was weak, you were vulnerable. There was no system to protect everyone equally. The strong could oppress. The weak had little recourse, yet within this system there were values people respected deeply. Hospitality was sacred. A guest was honored even if they were an enemy. Food was shared. Shelter was given. Breaking this code brought shame. Generosity was admired. Those who gave freely were praised in poetry and stories. Bravery was respected. A person who defended their tribe was remembered. These qualities were celebrated, but they were not guided. Because without guidance, strength can become cruelty. Honor can become arrogance. Loyalty can become injustice. Injustice can become selective. Women in this society were often vulnerable. Some were respected within their families. Others were treated as possessions. There was no consistent protection. Orphans were especially vulnerable. Without a father or tribe to defend them, they were often ignored or mistreated. The poor struggled. Wealth was not evenly distributed, and generosity depended on character, not obligation. Helping the needy was admired but not required. Despite all of this, Arab society valued poetry and speech. Words carried power. Poets preserved history. They praised courage. They shamed injustice. Language was rich. Expression was refined. This would later become important, because when revelation came, it came in words. Words that would shake hearts accustomed to powerful speech. Imagine a gathering at night, men sitting in a circle, a fire burning softly. Stories being told, lineage recited, battles remembered, honor defended through words. This was how identity was preserved, but beneath this strong social structure there was instability. No unity beyond the tribe, no shared moral compass. Each group lived by its own standards, and so society lacked balance. Strength existed, but mercy was inconsistent. Honor existed, but justice was uneven. Tradition existed, but truth was unclear. This was the society into which Islam would speak. Not to destroy the tribe, but to redefine loyalty. Not to erase honor, but to give it meaning. Not to remove strength, but to guide it with mercy. Belief in Arabia before Islam was complex. It was not a complete denial of God, and it was not pure belief either. Most people believed in Allah. They knew His name. They acknowledged Him as the Creator. But they did not worship Him alone. Over time, people introduced intermediaries. They believed idols could bring them closer to Allah. They believed these objects could protect them, intercede for them, or bring them benefit. And slowly worship shifted. Stone figures were carved, wooden statues were shaped, names were given to them. Each idol represented something: protection, strength, rain, success. People gave these objects meaning that only Allah deserves. The Kaaba, built by Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail, was originally a place of pure worship. But over generations, idols were placed inside it, not one or two, but many. Each tribe had its own idol. Each group defended its own symbol. The Kaaba became a center of pilgrimage, but not of pure faith. People circled it, prayed near it, and sacrificed to idols there. Religion became tradition, something inherited, not examined. Some people worshipped celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, the stars. They saw power in what they could see. Others followed distorted forms of earlier religions. Fragments of previous scriptures remained, but their meanings were lost. Truth was mixed with falsehood. Despite this confusion, deep inside, many hearts were unsettled. Idols could not speak, they could not answer. When hardship came, people still called upon Allah. This showed that the truth was not erased, only buried. There were also those who rejected idol worship entirely. They believed in one God, they rejected idols. They were few, quiet, often isolated. They searched for truth without a clear path. Allah preserved sincerity even in times of darkness. Worship had lost its purpose. Acts were performed without understanding. Faith became routine, movement without meaning. People worshiped because their ancestors did, not because their hearts were certain. Imagine standing before an idol, silent, motionless, unaware, and yet people asked from it, hoped from it, feared it. This confusion weakened the soul. Because the heart was created to worship something greater than itself. When that need is misplaced, restlessness follows. Idolatry also affected morality. When there is no clear accountability, right and wrong become flexible. People justified their actions based on tradition, not truth. The belief system of Arabia was not empty, but it was misdirected. It needed correction, not replacement. It needed clarity, not destruction. And that clarity would come through revelation. The moral condition of society was deeply connected to belief. When belief becomes unclear, behavior often follows. In pre-Islamic Arabia, right and wrong were not guided by revelation. They were guided by custom, power, and desire. Some actions were praised, others ignored. Justice was selective. What benefited the tribe was considered right. What threatened it was considered wrong. Truth depended on loyalty, not principle. Drinking alcohol was common. Gatherings often involved intoxication. People sought escape, relief from hardship, or temporary pleasure. But intoxication clouded judgment. Arguments turned into fights. Words turned into violence. Gambling was widespread. People placed their wealth on chance. Some gained suddenly, others lost everything. Families suffered, resentment grew, but there were no limits. Relationships lacked structure. Marriage existed, but not with consistent dignity. Women's rights depended on family strength, not moral obligation. Some were protected, others were mistreated. There was no universal standard. One of the darkest practices was the burial of infant girls, not everywhere, not by all. But it existed, driven by fear of poverty or shame. Life was ended before it could begin. Orphans were neglected. Without guardianship, their wealth was taken. Their rights were ignored. The weak had no voice. Yet even in this moral confusion, people admired certain virtues: courage, loyalty, generosity. These qualities were praised in poetry, but they lacked balance. Courage became aggression. Loyalty became blind support. Generosity became pride. Without accountability to Allah, virtues lose direction. They become tools instead of principles. People believed in fate but misunderstood it. They blamed destiny for their actions. Responsibility was avoided. Repentance was rare. Despite all this, human nature still recognized wrong. Guilt existed, regret existed, but there was no system to cleanse the soul, no clear path to forgiveness. Society needed guidance, not force, not control, but moral clarity, a standard that applied to everyone, strong and weak alike. This moral vacuum created readiness. People were tired of injustice, tired of confusion, tired of emptiness. The soil was ready. Nothing in history happens randomly. The choice of Arabia was not accidental. Allah chooses places the way He chooses people, with wisdom. Arabia was not the most powerful land. It was not rich. It was not advanced in empire or technology, and that was the point. No empire could claim ownership of revelation. No king could control it. Islam would not belong to a nation, it would belong to humanity. Arabia stood between great civilizations. To the north, the Romans; to the east, the Persians; to the south, Africa. Trade routes connected them all. Ideas passed through Arabia. Messages traveled with caravans. Arabia was isolated enough to remain independent, yet connected enough to spread a message. The Arabic language was powerful, rich in meaning, precise in expression. It could carry deep concepts without losing clarity. When revelation came, it came in a language that could preserve it, memorize it, recite it, transmit it. Arab society valued memory. Poetry was memorized word for word. Genealogies were preserved orally. This made the Quran easy to preserve accurately. Arabia had no centralized authority. There was no ruler to suppress the message entirely. Opposition existed, but no empire could crush it immediately. Islam grew naturally, from heart to heart. The people themselves were shaped by hardship. They understood patience, endurance, sacrifice. These qualities were necessary because the message of Islam would demand everything. The Arabs were known for pride, strong identity, resistance to change. If such a people accepted Islam, it would prove its truth. Islam did not spread because people were weak, it spread because hearts were convinced. Arabia also carried a legacy, the legacy of Ibrahim, the Kaaba. The pilgrimage, the memory of monotheism. Islam did not introduce something foreign, it restored something forgotten. Allah prepares the ground before planting the seed. Centuries of hardship, moral confusion, spiritual emptiness. All of it created readiness. When the final messenger came, the world was ready. Not just Arabia, but humanity. Before great change, there is often stillness, a quiet moment before something begins. The world at this time was in that stillness. Empires existed, powerful, structured, organized, the Romans in the west, the Persians in the east. They had armies, cities, systems, but something was missing. Despite their strength, they lacked spiritual clarity. Religion had become complicated, divided, disputed. Truth was mixed with human interpretation. Faith no longer felt simple. People followed traditions without understanding them. Leaders held authority, but guidance felt distant. The connection between people and their creator was not clear. In many places, people felt lost. Not in direction, but in meaning. They lived, worked, built, but something deeper was unsettled. Back in Arabia, life continued as it always had. Tribes moved, trade flowed, people gathered. Nothing seemed unusual. Yet beneath the surface, everything was ready. The environment had shaped the people. The society had exposed its limits. Belief had reached confusion. All the pieces were in place, but the message had not yet come. Sometimes, change does not begin loudly, it begins quietly. In silence, in reflection, in moments unnoticed by most, there were individuals who felt the emptiness more deeply. They questioned what they saw, they stepped away from idols, they searched, not for power, not for status, but for truth. They did not have answers, but they knew that what surrounded them was not enough. This quiet search was a sign that hearts were ready. The world was not collapsing, it was waiting for something clear, something simple, something true. Guidance does not come when everything is perfect, it comes when it is needed, and now it was needed. Soon, a man would begin to withdraw from society, not out of rejection, but out of reflection, seeking quiet, seeking clarity, not knowing that revelation was near. Everything you have heard was not random, it was preparation, a land shaped by hardship, a people shaped by survival, a society shaped by confusion, not empty, but not guided. Arabia before Islam was not without good. There was generosity, there was courage, there was loyalty, but these qualities had no clear direction. Without guidance, even good qualities can become unbalanced. Strength without mercy becomes harshness. Honor without truth becomes pride. Freedom without guidance becomes confusion. And so the world waited, not in chaos, but in incompleteness. Guidance was not coming to replace everything. It was coming to correct, to balance, to complete. Sometimes in life we also experience this. We are not completely lost, but something feels missing. We continue our routines, we speak, we move, we live, but the heart feels unsettled. That feeling is not weakness, it is awareness. It is the soul recognizing that it needs something more. Just as Arabia needed guidance, the human heart always needs guidance. No matter the time, no matter the place. Allah does not leave people without direction. He does not leave hearts without light. Guidance comes when it is needed. And it comes with clarity. The story you have listened to is not only history, it is a reminder that before clarity there is confusion, before light there is stillness. Soon, in this very land, a man would receive revelation. Not with noise, not with crowds, but in silence, in solitude, in a moment that would change everything. From that moment, truth would become clear, worship would become pure, justice would become balanced, mercy would become central. But for now, we remain here, in the time before that moment, in the calm before change. Allow your mind to slow, allow your thoughts to settle. There is nothing more to process, only to rest. If you're listening at night, let your body relax. Let the tension fade, there is no need to hold on to anything. Allah is aware of every heart, every thought, every quiet moment. You are not unseen. As this reflection comes to an end, remain in that calm, remain in that stillness. And carry with you a quiet understanding that guidance always comes at the right time. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. If you like this video, please like, comment, and share with who need to hear this.